before we actually get onto the whole learning process and the process and the structure that's going to take in place to take John from being Heartstock Plant all the way to Diamond, I first need to catch you guys up on what we have been working so far up to this point. So when we first started with John, the very first thing I worked on is just full clear timer. That was the very first thing, okay? We just need to make sure that his full clear timer was up to par, and especially because when he started learning with Year, which was the champion that we were going to commit to, he dropped all the way to bronze, right? A champion he knew nothing about. We needed to really start from zero, and the very first thing to start off with is full clear timer, right? We need to just get it at a very competitive level, get it to a time where it is very, very solid, because just learning how to full clear at a really good time is going to spread out to the rest of your gameplay for the rest of the game. It doesn't just apply to the first full clear. All the things that you learn are going to apply to the rest of the game, to the entire game when you clear from start to finish. Anytime it's going to be, there's a lot of things you're going to learn to just optimize. The next thing we started working on, which John mentioned was one of the most useful parts of this entire thing.
The most impact was when we did that exercise that we started like full clear and not skip any camps. Remember that like at the start we were like, okay, so now you are only allowed to look for ganks and stuff after you full clear. So you're full clear, you look for gank, look to do something, and then you go back full clear, and then you look for gank, and keep repeating that the whole early game. I think that was like crazy improvement.
Now that you actually learn how to full clear at a really good time, then we need to just set up a foundation for how we can build up a really good player from. So what is that foundation? That foundation is learning how to cycle camps, how to play around tempo, how to value gold and XP generation, and to really only make plays when our camps are down. So what exactly does it look like? We had a very strict rule where I told John, hey, I want you to just farm your camps and only make plays when your camps are down. That was the very first step we were. Now, long term, this is not sustainable. Eventually, you can't really win games just to farming, but as a foundational thing to do, as the first step to take, this is a really good thing to practice because it helps you value gold and XP generation. And you can sort of see how naturally, just by farming, you're just massively ahead of the enemy jungler because the enemy jungler is just wasting so much time ganking. So then after getting a really good full clear timer, you then focus on just the value of just cycling your camps over and over again and really only making plays when your camps are down and having it as a strict rule at the beginning. Just to start, not sustainable in the long run, but to start, it's a great thing to start. Once we're actually doing this, once we're actually optimizing our clear speed, and we're also just not wasting time with useless ganks, any of that sort, and we're really only making plays when our camps are down, then we're going to naturally generate tempo leads. And now we go on to step number 3, which is understanding and using tempo leads. What exactly is a template? A template is when you are already on your second clear, starting on, let's say, your Gromp, and the enemy jungler is barely beginning his recall. That would mean that you're about 1 camp ahead in tempo, right? So now that you're generating tempo leads naturally just by having good farm, optimizing everything, now it's like, how exactly do we use it? How do we turn those tempo leads into invades, into objective takes, into ganks, into all these sorts of things that are actually going to snowball, create a lead, and then help us eventually close the nexus? So then that was the next step, okay? First, making sure full clear time was very optimized, cycling camps, only making plays when our camps are down. And then once we generate those tempo leads, how do we use them? To invade, to create objective takes, to gank, to dive, etc., etc. And then from then on, we started winning a lot of games. It's possible so that we can actually create positive outcomes and then snowball the game from there. So it all just comes from champion mastery. In Udyr specifically, it was choosing between awakens, right? So which awaken is the best in what situation. It had a lot to do with pre-forming, right? Not only going with E, but maybe having a Phoenix around you as you're walking into a fight so that you slow them, which makes it easier for you to use your E, right? And understanding when we use, again, Awaken, I think was a huge thing. And then cycling between our abilities to know which ones are really the important ones that we care about. So all these basic things. And a bit of more big picture thing is playing around teammate proximity, right? When do we go in to commit to a fight? When do we actually just stall, wait because our teammates are too far away and they have second move? We have first move, we want to go hard, we want to engage. If our teammates have second move, we want to disengage, wait for our teammates. When we match, do we win the fight? Okay, go, right? So little different things like that in terms of fighting and champion match that I think were key. That just amplifies everything that we've been learning about. And that if we play the fights well, and we understand the 3 previous decks that we've been working on, games are going to be very easy for us to play. Now that we've talked about what things we learned in the past, from that point to this point, now we want to talk about moving forward. What are going to be the challenges that we need to overcome, / what are the struggles or the battles that we need to overcome. So the very first thing is going to be eliminating all distractions. What exactly do I mean by this? Kind of I mentioned in my very first video that I ever made and uploaded, if our objective is to get diamond, it makes sense to only take actions that are going to be productive towards getting the diamond. What exactly does that mean? Arguing with our teammates is not something beneficial. Typing to our teammates is not something beneficial, right? Spam ping is not something beneficial. Reviewing games, wasting review time on teammate mistakes is not beneficial. Okay? Arguing about champion, how overpowered a champion is not beneficial, right? So eliminating all those distractions. So tangibly, practically, how do we do this? Well, the very first easy thing to do is turn chat off. I think chat is a net negative. It can be useful, but I think overall as a net, it is a negative thing. So it doesn't make sense for us to have something turned on that is overall net negative for our client. Pings, yes, have them on. I believe they are a net positive. Yes, people can still be toxic with pings, but it is overall a net positive. So having that, and then again, after the game, don't focus on how overpowered a champion is. If a champion did a lot of damage, objectively think about it and adapt around reality. That's reality, adapt our decision making around it. If at that point the champion does a ton of damage, okay, then maybe we don't take that 1v1, or we don't take that team fight, or maybe our decision making is adjusted, okay? And then just focusing on improving. That is it. Every time, every play we make, every game we come out of, purely focusing on, okay, what could we have done better? What can we do better going into the next game, or into the next play, or even just into the next team fight, right? To have a better team fight, a better game, all that kind of stuff. That's has to be your main focus. And a lot of it is not about what do we do, it's about what do we not do. Which is why number 1 is just eliminating all distractions. The next thing that's going to be a challenge for us is going to be number 2, quality over quantity. So one thing that John has that is actually really good is the fact that he's willing to put the hours in. He's a very hard worker. He has some pretty insane work ethic. Honestly, like some of the work ethic that I've seen from John is honestly very impressive. Very impressive, okay? So he's willing to put the hours in, which is great. He's very determined to make it happen, very competitive, and he doesn't just say he's competitive, his actions show that he's a very competitive person. So he puts a lot of hours in, right? The issue with that is that we sometimes will fall into the issue of just mindlessly or purposely putting a lot of hours in, and if we're not really improving from that, that's what creates us being 577 games stuck in platinum, because we're playing a lot of games, we're putting the game time, but we're not actually improving for any of them, which then means that game that we played or those games that we're playing are just a waste. A useful game is a game where we actually take away something where we learn and we can improve on. So like I tell John all the time, because I think it's such an important reminder to give him, it's not about us playing 1,000 games, it's about us improving 1,000 times. It's not about us playing 100 games, it's about us improving 100 times. So it's very important that every game we are looking to improve. If that means we have to decrease the quality of games so that we can get more from each game because we're reviewing every single game, we're taking our time to actually think and stop, hey, what exactly do we need to do the next game to actually improve, then whatever is necessary, right? But that is definitely going to be a challenge that we need to overcome, making every game count, making sure that we're improving even just 1% from every single game. The third thing that we're going to be working on that's going to be a challenge that we need to overcome, and this one's a little bit difficult to work around, but I have a theory of how exactly we can work around this, is awareness. I think when you're coming into decision making, there's 3 steps. The first step is to actually gather the information, to get the information. And the second thing is you actually need to understand the information that you're seeing in front of you. And the third step is simply execution, right? Or making a decision, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times when we make bad decisions, we might be like, oh, we should not have fought that dragon. But it's not that we thought that the dragon was a good decision or that we didn't know that it was a bad decision. It's that we didn't have enough information. We didn't see that our top winner was top with no TP and the enemy top was top with TP. We just didn't even look at that information, even though it was available to us. So it's not that we made the wrong decision, it's that we didn't have enough information to make the correct decision. which in that case, then the solution is not to, learn how to make a decision, learn to understand the information. It's to get the information. How do we get as much information as possible? How do we learn to get information so that we can make better decisions? Because the more information we have, the better decisions we will make. Oh, I went for an invade, and you didn't even notice that the enemy millionaire had priority, and he was literally on his way here. And because of that, that was a bad invade. So it wasn't necessarily that we made a bad invade. It's that we just didn't see the mid situation, and I guarantee you that if you would have seen that the enemy had priority, you would have not gone for that invade. So just awareness. How exactly do we increase the level of awareness? So in this case, John can gather as much information as possible so that he can consistently be making very well-informed, very well-educated decisions. Number 4, we're going to be working on fighting execution. So this is something that we'll probably never stop working on, and every once in a while we'll put it back in as the main focus for the week because it's just so important to just consistently focus on this such important factor. Fighting is so important thing. You can get the challenger by just not even knowing macro things and just being really good mechanically and understanding fightings and being really good at fighting. You can make it happen, right? And again, like you could be the macro god, but when it comes time to fight, we're not fighting appropriately, we don't even have a win condition for the fight that we're about to take, then we're actually not really going to climb. So it's something we need to consistently improve, especially when we go against better and better players every single division that we go up, to the point that we are also leveling up and we're actually fighting well. Because different to chess, in chess, if you make a bad move, it's a bad move. If you make a good move, it's a good move. But in League of Legends, if you make a good move, but you execute it bad mechanically, you will still get bad results, despite it being a good move macro-wise. Big picture-wise, it's a good decision. And vice versa. If you make a bad move, but you played exceptionally mechanically, you might still get a good result anyways. So that's why it's just so important to focus on fighting, right? It's just, yes, mechanics and fighting can be taught because a lot of it is decision-making. What we use an ability on what time, right? What target selection, who do we want to target? When do we want to go in? When do we want to pull out? These are things that are actually teachable. The only things that are not teachable is, precision of our mouse and how fast we press a key and how fast we react. It's like, if this, then that, right? If Malphite ults, then we flash. You understand that is premeditated. That is a decision. Like, okay, when Malphite ults, I want to flash. That's a teamfight win condition because I'm an AD carry and I'm very squishy. But then the actual execution of that, you being able to react on time, that is not teachable. But what is teachable is the premeditated decisions that are going to give you a general game plan and the win condition as to how to actually have the better fight possible. And again, number 4, fighting execution, something that we'll always need to go back on. It's such an important thing. And then number 5, which is going to be a big challenge as well, is now that we learned how to farm and how to keep good tempo and how to get good CS and golden XP generation and getting really fed and generating tempo leads just naturally, now we have to learn the art of skipping camps. When is it actually worth it for us to skip camps? Is there an objective that's worth more? Because now it's not really about us, let's just consistently get our 600, 400 gold from a full clear guaranteed every single time. It's like, okay, we could get a guaranteed 400 gold from our full clear, or we could go for an invade that's going to generate us an extra 200 gold that it would capitalize and get our own 2 camps as well, right? We got 2, 4, 6 camps. The enemy jungler only got 2, so we got 600 gold, and they got 200 gold, which means we got a 400 gold team instead of just going even by full clear, right? So in those cases, skipping camps is going to be better. So it's just opening up ourselves to the possibilities of that there are decisions that are going to generate us more golden XP than just cycling our own camps and then going for those decisions, right? What of those are actually worth it? And vice versa, right? We might want to full clear, but if we full clear, our bot lane's going to get dull. They're going to lose 2 waves. They're going to lose a plate, and they're both going to die. That's 2 kills. What is that? 300, 200, 600. A plate. That's another 100 on top of 700. And then 2 waves, maybe like 100, 150, right? Depends if it's a cannon wave. That's like a 900, 800 gold swing just from one play. So it's far more important that we're there to defend the dive and we deny the enemy the possibility to get that 800, 900 gold than for us to just guarantee our full clear, right? So these are going to be definitely a massive challenge, and this is a very hard thing to teach, but it's definitely very doable. And just looking at the variables, making a very sort of flow chartable, very, very thought process, everything needs to make sense. But yes, it's going to be a challenge, but if we learn this, I think this is going to be what's going to lock us getting into diamond and going through.
I have just finished leveling up the account to level 30, and it's now a brand new account, level 30. All played only A-Run. I just played A-Run, but the account's now level 30, and I'm going for the 10 required games before jumping into ranked. Wish me luck on the next 10 games, and yeah, see you guys soon. Missed his ult!
1 hour later.
We finished our 10 Swift Play games, and we have just unlocked ranked solo duo games. We are ready to finally go ranked solo duo.
2 hours later.
Missed ult. Okay, now I didn't see the... Hold. Okay, nice.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
But yeah, that's the first defeat that we have. At least we won 4 of the 5 games of the placements, and we lost just this one, which was unfortunate. We had 3 losing lanes when we were winning and ahead. But happens, and those games are gonna happen, and we need to just improve and play better. I'm gonna honor Brown, and I do have to honor this Smolder from the enemy team. Right guys, and placements complete. There we go, we got placed silver 1, 51 LPs. We are playing with platinums, so our MMR is really good, but yeah, so see you guys later for the next games.